What's up guys? In this video I'm going to show you all the ways I fly in the Stranded campaign. From epic cargo planes to cheaty options for getting at some of the elevated places without any wings. I'm going to show you all the builds I use in my playthrough, how I upgrade them as I progress, and talk about why I made some of the decisions I did as I refined the designs. I'm going to start with some super basic options for getting yourself up. Once you have the propeller or the thruster, you don't need much else. With seat controls, you can maintain some control over a smaller build without setting up any control systems. I did a slightly overcomplicated version of this to get the helicopter engine in my playthrough. It doesn't feel great, and it's just as likely to end up in disaster as success, but if you absolutely have to get that logic or the armored seat early in the campaign, go for it. The rules are, there are no rules. Get it done any way you can. This build, man, have you ever spent so much time refining a design, just tinkering and testing and fiddling with arbitrary details that the build kind of becomes a sentient being in your mind? Like kind of a Frankenstein's monster situation, but without all the grunting and murder. My point is, Lady Hoverpants isn't a Trailmakers build. She's my friend. She and I have been through a lot over the years. The key to a hover collector like this is stability. I can't talk about this without mentioning ThatDomGuy and how I learned to make this build work after watching one of his videos. The video is linked in the description. Check it out, Trailmakers. I'm using helicopter engines as stabilizers and to produce my yaw and roll. In older models, I also use them for pitch. 6 total engines are used to produce the stability, set up in sets of 2, each spinning opposite directions. For yaw and roll, a single engine is used. Pitch is seat controls augmented by the motion of the servos that angle my lift engines forwards and backwards. The base model starts at 21 power cores. As I get more power cores, I upgrade with 4 more thrusters and 4 more gimbals. The additional gimbals fire only when I fire the main lift thrusters. Gimbals I think give you the most instant lift of all the thrusters available, meaning there's no delay from input to full power like with Dragon thrusters. Fully upgraded, she can deliver the heaviest blocks in the campaign. I use gimbal thrusters to provide what I call light as a feather lift. They provide just enough power to keep the aircraft almost floating. It will slowly lose altitude if I don't tap the lift thrusters. The old models had landing struts. I could land and use my forward thrusters to scooch myself over the salvage. When they added the hinge strength mechanic, the landing struts became pogo sticks. But in the long run, having to learn to control my aircraft in the air over the salvage made me a better pilot. Here's an old clip from 2020 of the lady helping my friend Bubba get his truck across the gap. You can see the old landing struts there. Yeah, that's a banjo playing. His name's Bubba. What did you expect, a French horn? Here are a few of the multiplayer designs that evolved out of this build. This combat flyer used to be my bread and butter in combat servers before auto-aim was a thing. And in friendly servers, this search and rescue lift has pulled loads of player builds out of sticky situations. This is a recent version I made using all the new parts from Spacebound. It's my camera flyer for shooting multiplayer videos in third person. Weirdly, I very much prefer the handling of the original. Probably because I'm super used to it because I've been playing with it right now, but it's kind of weird. Lady Hoverpants is the perfect build for like 75% of what needs to be done in the Stranded campaign. But she will be the first to tell you her climb rate is abysmal. If you're bringing salvage down from the floating islands one at a time, the back and forth can be mind-numbing. Now I built a fancy bush plane to get up the islands more quickly, but I was showing off because of YouTube, and I ultimately wound up with a plane that only climbs slightly faster than Lady Hoverpants. In other playthroughs, my transport plane looked more like this, very fast. Sometimes I would build it like a rocket and launch it vertically. Since the Mariner Cub had so much time put into it and had very little to do with delivering any salvage in the campaign, I'm gonna leave it out of this video. I'm leaning towards a full video all on its own with a demo on how I upgraded it with non-campaign parts into the Mariner Scout bush plane. So click the thing so you don't miss that one. The mindless back and forth of clearing the floating islands ultimately led to a cargo plane. This one I call SUPERFLY 7. Because it's super and it flies with 7 pieces of salvage. Nailed it. In the past, I made larger ones and would gather all the non-exploding smaller salvage to this island and load up maybe 10 or 11. With a cargo plane, the real challenge is getting it loaded up without breaking anything. I use LoaderBot for that job. It's pretty basic. I made the grabber arm very long with extra points of articulation so I could gently shove salvage into place in the cargo hold. The plane has very basic landing gear with steering and very controllable yaw. I did a whole video about yaw in this game and how to make it work good. Check out that video if you're having trouble getting it to work smoothly. The wings have support sticks. I don't know what to call them. There's probably a word for these. I'll call them support sticks. Deal with it. Anyway, they deploy with the landing gear to keep the wings from breaking on the ground during landing or taxiing. The hinges are set at low strength so they flex on contact rather than break. I use the small wings to give it flaps for low speed landings and extra lift on takeoff. I used a few piston glitches to fine tune the shape into something I could live with being seen in, and to get the door functioning with enough clearance for easy loading. This is the first model that sweeps the wings out of the way for loading. I gotta say, that was an upgrade I should have made years ago. SUPERFLY 7 has the option of raising the landing gear, which will leave only the rear struts to support the plane and lowering the nose. This gives you a gravity assist when you're loading, keeping the salvage packed in relatively tightly as you load with minimal need for moving the salvage around once it's been dropped into the cargo hold. Picking a piece back up after you drop it can be very sketchy since you're just as likely to magnet the plane and break it as you are the salvage. Getting the cargo hold at an angle like this came from SoulReaper's comment on the second episode. They were commenting about Swampa Stompa, but I applied the same logic here and it worked pretty nicely. Thanks for the idea, SoulReaper. Guys, SoulReaper has a channel. You should definitely check it out. It's linked in the description below. Okay guys, I think this concludes the Stranded series. I feel like I've milked it for all it's worth at this point and it's gotta come to an end at some point. But I had way more fun than I expected making this series. It started as a labor of love. I just wanted it as a resource for new players and for the community to get to know me as a player and where my roots are in this game. And on the technical end, I needed more experience editing longer form videos. I really feel like I found some like-minded friends in the comments as the series progressed. You guys are awesome, and the warm response I got from some of you put smiles on my face for weeks. So thank you to everyone who left a comment on the series. You guys keep me going when the going gets tough. I'll see you in the next one, Trailmaker. Peace.